In the ancient world of gods and mortals, where the lines between divine and human often crossed, a child was born who would become the strongest man alive, Hercules. Hercules, or Heracles as the Greeks called him, was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. This made Hercules a demigod, blessed with incredible strength and power. But Hercules' life wasn't destined to be peaceful. Hera, Zeus's wife, hated Hercules because he was proof of her husband's betrayal. From the moment he was born, she tried to destroy him. Even as a baby, Hercules showed his strength. Hera sent 2 snakes to kill him in his crib, but baby Hercules grabbed them with his tiny hands and strangled them to death. It was clear that this child was no ordinary mortal. As he grew older, Hercules became famous for his strength and bravery. But Hera's hatred didn't stop. She wanted to ruin his life. One day, Hera sent a madness upon Hercules, driving him into a violent rage. In this state, he unknowingly killed his own wife and children. When Hercules realized what he had done, he was devastated. Overcome with grief and guilt, he begged for a way to make things right. The Oracle of Delphi told him he had to serve King Eurystheus of Mycenae and complete 12 impossible tasks. Only by completing these tasks could he find peace and forgiveness. And so Hercules began his journey, each task more dangerous than the last, testing not only his strength, but his courage and cleverness. 1. The Nemean Lion. The first task was to kill the Nemean lion, a monstrous beast terrorizing the land. This was no ordinary lion. It had skin so tough that no weapon could cut through it. The lion roared loudly, its golden fur shining in the sunlight as it charged at Hercules. He swung his sword, but it broke against the lion's hide. Realizing he couldn't use weapons, Hercules dropped his sword, ran at the beast, and wrestled it with his bare hands. The lion clawed and bit, but Hercules held on tight. With all his strength, he squeezed the life out of the creature. When the lion was dead, Hercules used its own claws to skin it and wore the pelt as armor, a symbol of his victory. 2. The Lernaean Hydra. The second task was to kill the Hydra, a massive snake-like monster with 9 heads. The challenge? Every time one head was cut off, 2 more would grow in its place. The Hydra hissed and lashed out, its glowing eyes fixed on Hercules. He swung his sword, slicing off one head, only to see 2 more grow back. Frustrated but determined, Hercules called for help from his nephew Iolaus. As Hercules chopped off each head, Iolaus used a burning torch to seal the neck, stopping new heads from growing. Finally, Hercules crushed the last immortal head with a massive rock. To make sure the beast was gone for good, he dipped his arrows in its poisonous blood. 3. The Ceryneian Hind. The third task was to catch the Ceryneian hind, a sacred deer of the goddess Artemis. The deer was fast and agile, and Hercules chased it for an entire year. Finally, he caught it by carefully trapping it without hurting it, showing that sometimes strength isn't the answer, patience is. 4. The Erymanthian Boar. For his fourth task, Hercules had to capture the Erymanthian boar. This enormous creature charged at him with his sharp tusks, but Hercules stood his ground. With a quick move, he dodged the beast and wrestled it to the ground, tying it up and dragging it back to the king. 5. Cleaning the Augean stables. Hercules was tasked with cleaning the filthy stables of King Augeas, which hadn't been cleaned in years. The job seemed impossible, but Hercules came up with a clever solution. He diverted 2 rivers to flow through the stables, washing away the filth in a single day. As Hercules continued his labors, the challenges became even more dangerous, testing his strength, cleverness, and resilience. Each task seemed designed to break him, but Hercules was no ordinary man. He was a warrior with the determination of a god and the heart of a mortal seeking redemption. 6. The Stymphalian Birds. Hercules arrived at a murky swamp, surrounded by trees draped in shadow. The air smelled of decay, and the eerie silence was broken only by the sharp cries of the Stymphalian birds. flesh-eating creatures with bronze beaks and metallic feathers that rained death upon anyone who came near. For a moment, Hercules felt a flicker of doubt. How could he defeat a flock of deadly birds hidden in the dark swamp? He scanned the area, thinking fast. Fighting them head-on would be suicide. But just as frustration began to rise, Athena appeared, offering him a pair of bronze castanets. The hero's lips curled into a determined smile. Armed with his bow and the castanets, Hercules climbed a high rock and clashed the bronze instruments together. A deafening metallic clang echoed through the swamp. The birds screeched and took flight, their metallic wings catching the dim light. Hercules' eyes narrowed as he unleashed a storm of arrows, each one striking true. One by one, the birds fell, and the swamp grew silent once more. As he walked away, Hercules felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had conquered the impossible through wit and precision, proving that even the most dangerous foes could be defeated with the right strategy. 7. The Cretan Bull. The seventh task brought Hercules to the island of Crete, where King Minos' sacred bull had gone mad, terrorizing villages and destroying crops. Hercules stood in the open field, staring down the beast. Its nostrils flared, and its hooves dug into the earth, kicking up clouds of dust as it prepared to charge. The bull let out a deafening roar and charged with the force of a thunderstorm. Hercules braced himself, his muscles tensing like coiled springs. At the last moment, he sidestepped the beast and grabbed its horns, twisting with all his might. The struggle was brutal. The bull thrashed and bucked, its fiery eyes locked on Hercules, but the hero's grip was unrelenting. With a roar of his own, Hercules used his strength to wrestle the beast to the ground. Breathing heavily, he tied the bull and led it back to King Eurystheus, who, as usual, hid in fear at the sight of Hercules' prize. 8. The Mares of Diomedes. For the 8th task, Hercules had to capture the mares of Diomedes, man-eating horses kept by the cruel King Diomedes. These weren't ordinary horses. They were wild and vicious, their eyes glowing red with madness. Hercules approached cautiously, the scent of blood and decay in the air. The mares snorted and pawed at the ground, their sharp teeth snapping at the empty air. Hercules felt a knot in his stomach. How could he tame such feral creatures? Then an idea struck him. He turned his attention to their master, King Diomedes, who laughed mockingly from the safety of his palace. Hercules' eyes burned with resolve. He stormed the palace, defeating Diomedes' guards with swift, powerful strikes before dragging the tyrant to his stables. The girdle of Hippolyta. Hercules' 9th task took him to the land of the Amazons, where he had to retrieve the girdle of their queen, Hippolyta. At first, Hippolyta, impressed by Hercules' reputation, agreed to give him the girdle willingly. But Hera, ever the instigator, disguised herself as an Amazon warrior and spread a lie that Hercules had come to kidnap their queen. As the Amazons prepared for battle, Hercules felt a pang of frustration. He didn't want to fight these honorable women, but he had no choice. The Amazons attacked, their arrows raining down like a deadly storm. Hercules fought with precision and restraint, his blows strong but controlled. When the dust settled, Hercules stood victorious. With Hippolyta's girdle in hand, he sailed away, his heart heavy from a battle he hadn't wanted to fight. 10. The Cattle of Geryon. For his 10th task, Hercules traveled to the far reaches of the world to steal the cattle of Geryon, a fearsome giant with 3 bodies and 3 times the strength of any man. The journey was long and exhausting, and when Hercules finally reached Geryon's land, he was met with a thunderous roar. The giant stood tall, his 3 faces glaring down at Hercules. The battle was fierce, each of Geryon's arms swinging massive weapons with deadly force. Hercules dodged and struck with calculated precision, his poisoned arrows finally bringing the giant to his knees. As Geryon fell, the earth shook beneath him. Hercules herded the cattle and began the long trek home, his strength and endurance tested like never before. 11. The Apples of the Hesperides. The 11th labor was to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides, guarded by a 100-headed dragon. Hercules, knowing he couldn't face the dragon directly, sought out the Titan Atlas, who held up the sky. Hercules offered to take Atlas's burden if the Titan retrieved the apples. Atlas agreed, but when he returned, he refused to take the sky back. Thinking quickly, Hercules asked Atlas to hold the sky for just a moment while he adjusted his position. As soon as the Titan took the weight, Hercules grabbed the apples and fled, leaving Atlas cursing his cleverness. 12. Cerberus. The final labor was the most dangerous, capturing Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the underworld. Hercules descended into Hades, facing the souls of the dead and the eerie silence of the afterlife. When he finally stood before Cerberus, the beast snarled and lunged, its massive jaws snapping. Hercules, unarmed out of respect for the gods of the underworld, grappled with the beast, his muscles straining as he subdued each of its heads. With Cerberus in tow, Hercules emerged from the underworld, completing his final task. Through these 12 labors, Hercules proved himself not just as the strongest man alive, but as a hero who overcame impossible challenges with strength, wit, and sheer willpower. His story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, we can find redemption through courage and determination.